You would like to dispense with?
I would like to dispense with reading.
I thank gentlelady. Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with. Gentlelady from Maine is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
Okay. This amendment is actually quite simple, and it's a topic we've discussed before. I think my colleague from California last night talked about reminding us all that Congress has the power of the purse, and that when appropriations allocates and appropriates funds, they should be spent for the purpose that we originally expected them to be. And my amendment says that no funds from the 2026, anyway, the FY budget that we're working on now can be expended. I'm going to get into this. I got 3 more amendments. Don't worry about it. Anyway, this is not the most important of the amendments, but this one is important because it says until all of the funds that have been frozen by this administration are released, no further funds can be made available from this act. So all of you recall right after the inaugural, there was a blanket freeze on a lot of the USDA funding. And I imagine that many of you, like I did, heard from organizations and farmers who were very distressed that whether it was conservation funds, or in my case, AFRI grants, risk management education partnership, organic partnership program, Northeast Regional Food Business Center, there was a whole host of funding streams that were frozen. And then maybe one day some of them got a call that said, oh, well, they're unfrozen, or they're unfrozen, but you have to reapply and you have to change some words in the document. And then in some cases, we found people had their grants unfrozen, refrozen, and all kinds of other complicated things happen. So I would like to see all of the funding that we had appropriated as appropriators in a previous bill unfrozen. And for those funds who have actually been unfrozen, but we can't figure it out half the time, I would like to see the kind of information we were normally able to access from executive branch agencies that explain to us what happened to those funds, where are they now, have they been unfrozen, did people get it, or if they weren't, what was the reason or what was changed in the program. So as I said, it's a relatively simple amendment, but for those people who are still waiting for their funds, they would finally be released. And I will remind you of one thing. For many of these funds, particularly that are grants that go to farmers, farmers expend the money and then they have to get reimbursed. And you know how difficult that's been this winter for those funds, whether it was EQIP or REAP or many of the other programs, that they didn't know if they were getting the money back. They would say to me, oh, I've got this $80,000 grant to mulch my blueberry field, but I don't know if I should finish it. I don't know if I should pay for it. What's going to happen with it? So I would like us to go back to something more normal when appropriations did its job. The executive branch carried out our bills? Yes, exactly. They did what we were told. They did what they were told. Anyway, it's just that simple. Support this amendment, and we will all be so much happier in the future. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Maryland, Dr. Harris, is recognized to respond to the amendment.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the gentlelady from Maine for offering the amendment, but I'm unfortunately going to have to oppose the amendment. I'm a little confused because actually the amendment applies to funds that were in this act, and yet it purports to solve problems from this fiscal year. So I'm not sure exactly how that operates, but maybe it will, maybe it won't. The bottom line is that this amendment runs counter to the administration's review of USDA programs. The reviews are ongoing, and it would be irresponsible for us to handcuff the administration as it attempts to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in the executive branch, which is exactly what the November election was all about. Our constituents sent Mr. Trump to the presidency and us to Washington to ensure that we're spending their taxpayer dollars wisely. And to do so, we need to support the administration's ongoing review of USDA programs. I urge my colleagues to oppose the amendment.
Gentlelady from Connecticut, the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Lowe, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of this amendment, which unfreezes funding that has been illegally impounded by this administration. In fact, stolen by this administration. Since taking office, the Trump administration has stolen funding appropriated by this committee and passed by the Congress for programs and services across the federal government that help grow the middle class, protect the working class, fuel small businesses, and make sure billionaires and mega corporations play by the rules and pay taxes. The president is not laser focused on the cost of living crisis, which he is actually making worse. Let me be clear. These funding freezes are illegal, full stop. Everyone on this committee should be able to agree that what we are doing here is writing laws. These are not suggestions, and they are having devastating impacts on hungry families and hardworking farmers. Millions of pounds of food grown by American farmers have sat in warehouses or gone to waste because of funding freezes and program cancellations. Over $1 billion for the local Food for Schools and local food purchase assistance was terminated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture earlier this year, and support for major global food aid programs like Food for Peace has been frozen, pulling the rug out from under our farmers and hungry people around the world. This amendment is simple. As long as the executive branch persists in this legal and historical fiction of stealing funds, the legislative branch, which has the actual constitutional authority to freeze funding, will step in to prevent this abuse of power. Every member of this committee that goes home to their constituents and calls themselves an appropriator owes this amendment their vote. I urge my colleagues to support the gentlelady's amendment, and I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Bishop, is recognized to address this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise also in strong support of the amendment. I'm sure that many members in this room have heard from somebody in that district, perhaps a farmer, about the funds that were owed by USDA that were frozen out of the blue. I certainly have, and I'm sure that those members tried their best to get the funds unfrozen, but generally with little success. The administration has no legal authority to not spend the funds that have been appropriated by Congress. And this amendment simply says that no funds in this bill can be expended or obligated by the Secretary until she unfreezes the funding and agreements and the contracts that have been appropriated. It's very simple. It's direct. It, I think, should send a message to the administration, should we adopt this amendment, which I hope we will, that Congress should have and is constitutionally given the power of the purse. Just that simple. And I urge the passage of the amendment. I thank the gentlelady for offering it, and I urge its support. Yield back.
Thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. McCollum, is recognized to speak to the amendment.
I've said it before, you're all tired of hearing it. I used to teach social studies. So when I go in and I'll have a group of school kids come to me and go, well, you work for the president. I look at them very nicely and I said, you know, a lot of people think that. But I don't work for the president. I work for you. I'm not elected to work for the president. I'm elected to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives and work for you. So I tell them sometimes I agree with the president, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I agree with the president from my party, sometimes I don't. But my job is to work for you. Work for you means that when a bill gets passed in the House and goes to the Senate, goes to conference, and gets signed into law by the president that directs funding, we've directed funding, the president has signed it to go to a nonprofit, a school, a city, a county. That's law. And there's a whole section called Appropriations law. And the last time, and I've had these discussions with both Democratic and Republican presidents when things haven't been moving. That's the law. So for us to say the president won the election, has a mandate, Gentlemen and ladies on the other side of the aisle, I agree with you. They do. But they don't have a mandate to change the law. They don't have a mandate to tell me that I have to be okay with a decision that they make, which goes against a law that I voted for, or maybe I voted against. The money is entitled to them. And when we start ignoring that fact, when we start saying that we work for the president, when we start saying somebody wants, so everything that they want to do is okay, it's a real slippery slope. So I'm going to be going back to some schools and talking to some school kids, and they're going to ask me again, what do you do in Washington? What's it like working for the president? I'm going to remind them, I don't work for the president. I work for you. And there's a thing called appropriations law, and when we sign something into law, it is a promise that needs to be honored and kept to a state government, a local government, to a nonprofit, to a company that we've honored a contract with. We need to follow the law, and we need to ask the president to follow the law. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Pocana, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm only going to be getting up a couple times tonight, but I did want to share a story related to this. And this is unfortunate. This is one of these where we're acting like we don't know why this amendment's up. You know, this is directly to our Article 1 constitutional authority. We've allocated, we've appropriated funds, and now the president's stealing it. But I want to share a story in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. There was a farmers' town hall, and they invited 3 members of Congress from Wisconsin and then state legislators, Democrats and Republicans. I showed up. The other 2 members of Congress did not that were invited, and then a number of state legislators did. And for an hour and a half, we listened. This was late February, early March. We listened to stories about people's funds who'd been frozen. And this was after we were told there were no funds frozen, and then farmer after farmer explained different funds that they've had frozen and what impact it had on them. Went for 90 minutes, and at the very end, the person who's the head of this said, hey, I just want to let everyone know, thanks for being here, but this gentleman's name that I won't say, who they all had worked with, he worked with a state agency dealing directly with farmers, federally funded. They just wanted to let him know that the week before, Elon Musk had taken away his job, and that night, that gentleman took his life. And there's still more to it, because that was awful enough. The real life ramifications of us just saying nothing and acting like we don't know why this amendment's before us. But then I did a town hall about a month later in my district, and I told that story as generically as I did now. And a man and a woman came up to me afterwards, and they were family members of this person. And the family's not ready to talk about it yet. I hope they will, because I want people to know the ramifications of what the Trump agenda is doing to people in places like Wisconsin. But they explained that what had happened in addition to losing his job was he was the person who signed a lot of the contracts on some of the IRA funds with farmers, and farmers had taken out loans and started projects, and now they weren't going to get paid back. And this was just weighing heavily on him, that he somehow had signed this and promised people money, and now they're not getting the money the government promised, because we won't stand up to the president for our Article 1 constitutional responsibilities. So there are real life ramifications. We can act like there's a very dated reference, but Sergeant Schultz from Hogan's Heroes, remember him? I know nothing. We can do that. But in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, actually a little farther south from there, someone died, took their life because of this sort of thing. And just ignoring it, we're all better than that. And I get it. There's a picnic tomorrow. We're probably not going to make it, but we got to start standing up for us, for our branch of government, and standing up for those families and that gentleman's family in my state. And I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Gentlelady from Ohio, Ms. Capter, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I rise in strong support of this amendment and thank Congresswoman Pingree for offering it. I want to remind the committee that being in Congress means keeping your promises. And in this case, keeping our promises to the American farmer, to those who sign contracts. It's about honor, and it's about a rule of law. Since January, according to the numbers I've been given, the Department of Agriculture has frozen or canceled more than $14 billion in promised funds for conservation, for technical assistance, for greenhouse upgrades, for watershed protections. Farmers across the country follow the rules. They sign the contracts, and in places like Ohio, where we had such terrible crop losses last year, they still haven't been reimbursed. I don't know what, it's already June. I would think they'd have some people in place over there at USDA. But what's happening to our farmers is unfair and wrong, and frankly, it is illegal. A contract is a contract. Our responsibility here is to follow the law, not to protect one party or another party, and to protect the integrity of this committee, and to ensure that our taxpayer dollars and legal agreements are honored. This amendment isn't partisan. It's about fairness and about respecting the dignity of the ones that do the work, our farmers. And they've had some rough moments in the Midwest. We're not the only part that had some bad situations last year. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this amendment. Let's stand up for our farmers and for the integrity of this community, of this committee and the government of the United States. And I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. I thank the gentlelady. Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, the question is now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. The gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I don't think I could make any better arguments than my colleagues have about why it's so important to understand our Article 1 powers, why we need to keep our promises, particularly to the farmers and others who are expecting us to deliver on the funding that we promised. And I encourage my colleagues to vote yes in this amendment. Yield back.
Thank gentlelady. The question is now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Maine. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. Opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Roll call has been requested, sufficient amount of support being there. The clerk is ordered to call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, no. Mr. Amadei. Mr. Amadei, no. Mrs. Bice. Mrs. Bice, no. Mr. Bishop. Aye. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert. No. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Case. Aye. Mr. Case, aye. Mr. Siscomani. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, no. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Cloud, no. Mr. Clyburn.
Yes.
Mr. Clyburn, aye. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Cole.
No.
Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Cuellar. Mr. Cuellar, aye. Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean, aye. Mr. Luro. Mr. Luro, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, no. Mr. Elzey. Ms. Escobar. Ms. Escobar, aye. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Espaillat, aye. Mr. Fleischman. Ms. Frankel. Ms. Frankel, aye. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, no. Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest, no. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder, aye. Dr. Harris. No. Dr. Harris, no. Mrs. Henson. Mrs. Henson, no. Mr. Hoyer.
Aye.
Mr. Hoyer, aye. Mr. Ivy. Aye. Mr. Ivy, aye. Mr. Joyce. No. Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Capter.
Aye.
Ms. Capter, aye. Mr. Lalota. No. Mr. Lalota, no. Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee, aye. Ms. Letlow. Ms. Letlow, no. Mr. Levin. Aye. Mr. Levin, aye. Ms. Malloy. No. Ms. Malloy, no. Ms. McCollum. Aye. Ms. McCollum, aye. Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, aye. Mr. Molinar. Mr. Molinar, no. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, no. Mr. Morelli. Aye. Mr. Morelli, aye. Mr. Mervan. Aye. Mr. Mervan, aye. Mr. Newhouse. No. Mr. Newhouse, no. Ms. Perez. Aye. Ms. Perez, aye. Ms. Pingree. Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan, aye. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Reschenthaler? Mr. Reschenthaler, no. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rutherford? Mr. Rutherford, no. Mr. Simpson? Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Strong? Mr. Strong, no. Ms. Torres? Mrs. Torres, aye. Ms. Underwood? Ms. Underwood, aye. Mr. Valadeo? Mr. Valadeo, no. Ms. Wasserman Schultz? Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mrs. Watson Coleman? Mrs. Watson Coleman, aye. Mr. Womack? Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Zinke? Mr. Zinke, no.
Are there any members who wish to record their vote or change their vote? Gentleman from California.
Mr. Aguilar, aye.
Are there any other members wishing to record or change their vote? A gentleman from Texas. And are there any other members wishing to record or change their vote? The clerk will tally. On this vote, the ayes are 28, the noes are 31. The amendment is not adopted. Gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Wasserman Schultz, is recognized for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk, and I ask unanimous consent that it be considered as read.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the gentlelady is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I rise to offer an amendment that is deeply personal to me, not just as a legislator, but as a cancer survivor. When you hear the word cancer, your world stops. Your priorities change. You shift from planning your week to planning your life to fighting for your life. You focus on making it to the next appointment, the next round of treatment, the next surgery, the next day. I've lived through that, just as others have in this room. We've sat in those cold waiting rooms. We've faced the fear, the exhaustion, and the uncertainty. And we had support. But too many Americans, especially those living paycheck to paycheck, face that fight alone. My amendment is very simple. It says, if you're diagnosed with cancer, or if you've survived it but are still dealing with the physical toll, you shouldn't lose your SNAP benefits just because treatment keeps you from meeting a work requirement. No administrator should decide that your cancer isn't convenient for their budget cut mandate. Let me be crystal clear. This is happening because the majority is using their reconciliation bill to pay for tax cuts for billionaires by cutting Medicaid and SNAP. And whether or not they admit it, this amendment exposes that ugly reality. People in active treatment could lose access to food just when they need it most. Have you ever seen someone go through chemotherapy? I would imagine that at least some of you have. It ravages your body. It takes everything you have just to make it through the day. The idea that someone in that condition would be forced to jump through administrative hoops just to keep food on the table is not only cruel, it's indefensible. This amendment doesn't block a single program. It doesn't cost a single dollar. It simply puts in place a safeguard, a humane and common sense check so that no cancer patient has to face hunger on top of everything else. This isn't partisan. It is about decency. And let me assure you that when you're going through cancer, you crave decency, because there is nothing decent about cancer. And if we can't come together on something this basic, protecting Americans who are fighting for their lives, then I don't know what we're doing here. Go home and look at a cancer patient in the eye who you love, or a constituent struggling to put nutritious food in the pantry while battling cancer. Tell them that you voted to put one more obstacle in their path to surviving. I ask you not to do that. I ask you to join me in making sure that we don't make life even less likely and harder for people battling cancer as a result of this policy change. And I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. Let's show that even in our disagreements, we still do share some common values. And I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Maryland, Dr. Harris, is recognized to address the amendment.
And thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The interesting thing here is that even in the reconciliation bill passed by the House, there were no changes in the medical exceptions to SNAP. It continues the exact same law that's been in place for years, and that is exceptions for both acute illness and chronic illness. In this case, a person with cancer is exempt under both acute illness during therapy and chronic illness if they have a chronic cancer that's not cured. It already exists. Well, let me tell you the reason why I won't vote for it, because then we're going to have an amendment on sickle cell disease. Same arguments can be made. Exactly the same arguments can be made. Diabetes, same arguments can be made. Hypertension, same arguments can be made. Congestive heart failure, definitely the same arguments can be made. Chronic renal failure, same arguments can be made. The fact of the matter is, we have a concise guardrail on SNAP benefits. It exempts acute and chronic illness. We don't need to pick every single possible diagnosis or disease. I get it. I get the politics of it. It's not about politics. It's about making good policy. SNAP policy is good. And the reconciliation bill, which was brought up, does nothing at all. Now, one has to ask. Members have been here for a decade or longer. That policy's been in place for a decade or longer. Why hasn't this been brought up before? We all know the answer to that. I yield back. I urge you to vote no on this. These protections are in place. We don't need this amendment.
Gentleman from, thank you. The gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Bishop, is recognized to address the amendment.
Support the amendment. I think it's a well-placed amendment, and I urge the passage.
I thank the gentleman. Do any other members seek recognition to address the amendment? Seeing none, the questions now on the amendment offered, I keep forgetting that. Forgive me. Okay, I should have that down by now. Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You know what I'm certain of? I'm certain that no one in this room really knows whether that requirement is that airtight. So I think that given how prevalent cancer is, given how devastating a cancer diagnosis is, which is different than each of the ailments that you mentioned in terms of the chronic nature of the treatment, of the debilitating impact of what you go through, I think that at the very least, we can all, and you know what? If it is as airtight as Dr. Harris says, then great, we'll pull it out. Or better yet, cancer patients will just be even more airtight than the subcommittee chairman believes it already is. But I think that at the very least, for cancer patients, we should just make sure. This is not about politics. I was a cancer patient. I can tell you, and I know other cancer patients in this room, and we watched one another Go through hell. Don't add to the hell. This is not politics. Let's make sure that cancer patients don't have one more obstacle thrown in their path and complicate their ability to have nutritious access to, affordable access to nutritious food and not be burdened with work requirements. And I urge your adoption of this amendment. Let's all just come together this one time. And we've got time down the road to make adjustments. Let's come together this one time and just say, yep, we're all going to make sure, at least in this instance, that we don't throw that obstacle in the path of somebody who is staring down the barrel of their life. Thank you, and I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady. The question's now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Florida. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Roll call has been requested. More hands, please. Sufficient support has been expressed. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, no. Mr. Amadei. Mr. Amadei, no. Ms. Spice. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Case. Mr. Case, aye. Mr. Siscomani. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, no. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Cloud, no. Mr. Clyburn. Mr. Clyburn, aye. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, no. Mr. Cole.
No.
Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Cuellar. Mr. Cuellar, aye. Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean, aye. Ms. DeLauro. Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, no. Mr. Elzey. Mr. Elzey, no. Ms. Escobar. Ms. Escobar, aye. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Espaillat, aye. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, no. Ms. Frankel. Ms. Frankel, aye. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, no. Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, no. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest, no. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder, aye. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, no. Mrs. Hinson. Mrs. Hinson, no. Mr. Hoyer. Aye. Mr. Hoyer, aye. Mr. Ivy. Mr. Ivy, aye. Mr. Joyce. Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Captor.
Aye.
Ms. Captor, aye. Mr. Loloda. Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee, aye. Ms. Letlow. Ms. Letlow, no. Mr. Levin. Mr. Levin, aye. Ms. Malloy. Ms. Malloy, no. Ms. McCollum. Ms. McCollum, aye. Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, aye. Mr. Molinar. Mr. Molinar, no. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, no. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, aye. Mr. Mervan. Mr. Mervan, aye. Mr. Newhouse. Mr. Newhouse, no. Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez, aye. Ms. Pingree. Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan, aye. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Rushenthaler. Mr. Rushenthaler, no. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, no. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Strong. Mr. Strong, no. Mrs. Torres. Mrs. Torres, aye. Ms. Underwood.
Aye.
Ms. Underwood, aye. Mr. Valadeo. Mr. Valadeo, no. Ms. Wasserman Schultz.
Aye.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mrs. Watson Coleman. Mrs. Watson Coleman, aye. Mr. Womack. Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Zinke. Mr. Zinke, no.
Are there any members wishing to record their vote or change their vote? The gentleman from Arizona is not recorded.
Mr. Siscomani, no.
Gentleman from New York.
Mr. Loloda, no.
Are there other, sorry, gentlelady from Oklahoma.
Mrs. Bice, no.
Are there any other members seeking to record or change their vote? Seeing none, the clerk will tally. On this vote, the ayes are 28, the noes are 35. The amendment is not adopted. Before we move forward, I noticed a stream of red uniforms that have magically appeared amongst us. There's actually one person that would be in one that's appropriately attired. I would call on him to tell us what has happened that have brought these people here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we had a great American tradition. It's a tradition that I've participated in for 15 years. Republicans and Democrats have participated in for over 115 years. The Congressional baseball game for charity. I do want to point out tremendous sportsmanship on both sides. There are some great athletes in this room. Two very dear friends of mine. One, Peter Aguilar, the MVP for the Democratic team, played an outstanding game. A very close personal friend of mine, and we worked together on a lot of issues in the nuclear cleanup area. He started for the Democratic team and played another game, Mr. Levin of California. Probably one of the best athletes I've ever seen, Jake Elzey, is just an incredible athlete, and he always gets it done. Yes, sir. John Molnar from the great state of Michigan, and has done such a tremendous job year after year. And thank God he got on base, and that meant I could pinch run for him. So well done, John. Andrew Clyde, who's just truly an outstanding athlete. He's a Navy Seabee, and it was so good to be with you tonight as well, sir. He predicted the game. We're almost done. I promise, Chair. He predicted he was
Oh, no, the
closest on the.
suspense is killing me. I'm going to ask the gentleman who
Okay.
won the game.
The Republicans won the game by 11 runs. However, yes, Mr. Juan Ciscomani from the great state of Arizona with his wonderful family showed up there. Tremendous. This is a guy who got hurt. He's a natural righty. He's not a lefty like me. And he practiced with his left-handed all year. It just goes to show us, though. Have I forgotten anybody on either Republican or Democratic side? No, Clint. Who? Yes, Frank Brevant from Indiana played. Absolutely. Give him a round of applause. Just really, these are magical nights. We raised close to $3 million for Washington, D.C. charities. So thank you. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, and to the ranking member, is my dear friend from the Italian caucus. I'm still trying to convince him I'm half Italian. You know that, but I am. But be that as it may, just shows us what we can do when we work together. God bless you all.
Well, I will report to my friend at the Republican chairman's meeting on earlier this week. We talked, your distinguished coach, Roger Williams, was asked about the game and what would happen, and he said, well, they've got the same team they had last year. We've got the same team we had last year. You draw a conclusion. Congratulations. But congratulations to all of you who played. It's great tradition, says a lot, so thank you. Okay. One other item I'm going to put before the committee, and before we move on in the amendment process, I've had a bipartisan request to lower the time for main speeches from 5 to 3 minutes, but I want to make. I would just ask for a voice vote. I want to make sure that we all agree on that. If we don't, that's fine. We'll continue as as the rules prescribe.
Chairman, is that for the rest of the week?
No, I think this is just for tonight. I would not stretch it, but again, I'll just ask for a vote. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So if the committee's okay, we will do that. The time to speak will be reduced in the normal 5-minute blocks to 3 minutes, and we'll move ahead. With that, it's Oh, is this? Oh, absolutely. Ms. Wasserman Schultz is recognized for the purpose of an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I launch off into my next amendment, I do want to invite you all, on behalf of my co-captain Stephanie Bice and I, of the Congressional Women's Softball Game, which will be playing as a bipartisan team, as women are, so often consensus builders rather than opposites, opponents. So our bipartisan team will play the common adversary, all of our common adversary, the press team, the Bad News Babes, on July 16th at 7 p.m. this year at Audi Field for the first time. So come on out and help us raise money for the Young Survival Coalition, a young women's breast cancer organization. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk, and I ask unanimous consent that it be considered as read.
Without objection, the reading of the amendments dispensed with. The gentlelady is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
Thank you very much. I rise today to offer an amendment that would ensure students and schools who currently qualify for free school lunches don't have those lunches torn away. School lunches are no luxury, but they can be a lifeline for students who may not know when the next good meal will arrive. It's also a good investment. We know that when schools provide universal free lunches, the students, parents, teachers, and entire communities reap the benefits. Educators report better attendance and behavior, and students who eat a healthier diet pull down better grades. And parents, some of whom work 2 jobs to pay the bills, get the relief of knowing their child has one surefire good meal waiting for them at school. But if it means the wealthiest can get a deeper tax cut, even free school meals for our most vulnerable children are fair targets for our friends on the other side of the aisle. Currently, any child whose family receives SNAP or Medicaid benefits automatically qualifies for free or reduced school lunch through direct certification. And in any school where 25% or more of their students qualify for free lunch through direct certification, they can offer free lunch to all their students through the community eligibility provision. That's a godsend for hungry, growing kids. And it lets struggling families get help without having to jump through extra bureaucratic hoops. For teachers, it ensures students don't slip through the cracks, and they teach classes full of children who are the good kind of hungry to learn. But to make their billionaire first budget work, Republicans need to kick millions of families off SNAP and Medicaid through their reconciliation bill. The next domino effect means that any student who loses SNAP or Medicaid will also lose direct enrollment in free school lunches. And then schools across the country will no longer qualify for school-wide free lunch under the community eligibility provision. Believe me, this is no partisan talking point. The CBO estimates that under Republicans' reconciliation plan, it would cut federal spending on school lunches and breakfasts by $700 million over the 28 to 34 period, impacting about 420,000 children each month. This drastic increase would affect the very budget that we are voting on today. In my community, these changes mean free lunches for the students at 180 Broward County Public Schools could be at risk. There's an even greater risk for the 30 schools in my district who are on the cusp of eligibility. Yet Republicans' current bill doesn't even acknowledge that their plans would rip food from hungry kids' mouths. And the starve the children to feed the wealthy budget hits families right as they struggle more than ever with high prices at grocery store checkouts. Schools feel the Trump food inflation impacts too. For instance, in the Broward School District I serve, like many around the country, they had to hike lunch prices by $1 for paying students and up to $3.50 per meal for high schoolers. And schools who lose universal free lunch eligibility would force students to pay these high prices, which means we'll likely see an increase in school lunch debts, like when free lunch programs ended after the pandemic. This plan actually makes that worse. My amendment simply doesn't allow USDA to use taxpayer dollars to strip eligibility for free meals from millions of students and thousands of schools nationwide because of reckless changes to SNAP or Medicaid. My amendment even focuses on specifically ensuring our most vulnerable students retain their access to free lunch programs. Not one child should go hungry because some politicians want to line billionaires' pockets before filling a ravenous kid's belly. And I know none of my colleagues here want a hungry child on their conscience, right? So please vote for what's right, support my amendment, and make sure kids don't go hungry. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. Distinguished chairman of the subcommittee is recognized to address the amendment. Dr. Harris of Maryland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition to the amendment. Nobody's starving children. Nobody's ripping food out from children's mouths. Really? The only thing the reconciliation bill does is put work requirements on able-bodied adults without dependents. Now, I will agree that children in school are without dependents, but they're certainly not able-bodied adults. And the idea that somehow children are going to get thrown off Medicaid or SNAP by what's in the reconciliation bill is just not true. But a majority of Americans, a clear majority of hardworking, tax-paying Americans, agree that work requirements are actually a good thing to have in those two programs. That's what this discussion is all about. One side of the aisle doesn't want work requirements. They want continued dependence for everybody. And one side of the aisle thinks it's absolutely reasonable to ask able-bodied adults without dependents to have only a limited access to welfare on the hard-earned taxpayer dollar. That's it. That's all. It's just that simple, ladies and gentlemen. I urge you to reject this amendment.
Thank the gentleman. The distinguished ranking member of the Agriculture Subcommittee of this committee, the Appropriations Committee, Mr. Bishop of Georgia, is recognized to address the amendment.
I rise in support of the amendment. I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, I rise in support of the amendment. The House Republicans are supporting some dangerous cuts to SNAP and Medicaid, and I think that this amendment will protect students and kids from suffering as a result of the cuts if they're enacted, and I urge a yes vote.
Thank the gentleman. Are there additional members who wish to address the amendment? Seeing none, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You see, what happens in the reconciliation bill is that families get kicked off SNAP and Medicaid through the reconciliation bill. The next domino effect means that any student who loses SNAP or Medicaid will also lose direct enrollment in free school lunches. And then schools across the country won't qualify anymore for school-wide free lunch under the community eligibility provision. So, and on and on. The CBO estimated that under Republicans' reconciliation plan, it would cut federal spending on school lunches and breakfasts by $700 million over the 2028 to 2034 period, impacting about 420,000 children each month. You aren't making policy in a vacuum or in isolation. One action has a cascading reaction and a cascading reaction after that. So don't think it's so simple that, you have people who are just being asked to work and children don't work, so they're not going to lose benefits. They lose benefits if their parents lose benefits. And by the way, most people on Medicaid are already working. Please make sure that we don't take food out of the mouths of children, which is what that plan does. I urge your support of the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlelady. The question's now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Florida. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Roll call has been requested. Sufficient number of, I assume a sufficient number of members have shown support. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Aguilar. Aye. Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, no. Mr. Amadei. Mr. Amadei, no. Mrs. Bice. Mrs. Bice, no. Mr. Bishop. Yes. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Case. Mr. Case, aye. Mr. Siscomani. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, no. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Cloud, no. Mr. Clyburn. Mr. Clyburn, aye. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, no. Mr. Cole.
No.
Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Cuellar. Mr. Cuellar, aye. Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean, aye. Ms. DeLauro. Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, no. Mr. Elzey. Mr. Elzey, no. Ms. Escobar. Ms. Escobar, aye. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Espaillat, aye. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, no. Ms. Frankel. Ms. Frankel, aye. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, no. Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, no. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest, no. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder, aye. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, no. Mrs. Henson. Mrs. Henson, no. Mr. Hoyer.
Aye.
Mr. Hoyer, aye. Mr. Ivy? Mr. Ivy, aye. Mr. Joyce? Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Capter?
Aye.
Ms. Capter, aye. Mr. Loloda? Mr. Loloda, no. Ms. Lee? Ms. Lee, aye. Ms. Letlow? Ms. Letlow, no. Mr. Levin? Mr. Levin, aye. Ms. Malloy? Ms. Malloy, no. Ms. McCollum? Ms. McCollum, aye. Ms. Ming? Ms. Ming, aye. Mr. Molinar? Mr. Molinar, no. Mr. Moore? Mr. Morelli? Mr. Morelli, aye. Mr. Mervan? Mr. Mervan, aye. Mr. Newhouse? Mr. Newhouse, no. Ms. Perez? Ms. Perez, aye. Ms. Pingree? Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Pocan? Mr. Pocan, aye. Mr. Quigley? Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Rushenthaler? Mr. Rushenthaler, no. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rutherford? Mr. Rutherford, no. Mr. Simpson? Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Strong? Mr. Strong, no. Mrs. Torres? Mrs. Torres, aye. Ms. Underwood? Ms. Underwood, aye. Mr. Valadeo? Mr. Valadeo, no. Ms. Wasserman Schultz? Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mrs. Watson Coleman? Mrs. Watson Coleman, aye. Mr. Womack? Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Zinke? Mr. Zinke, no.
Do any members wish to record their vote or change their vote? Gentleman from Arizona.
Mr. Siskamani, no.
Do any other members wish to record or change their vote? Seeing none, the clerks will tally. On this vote, the ayes are 28, the noes are 34. The amendment is not adopted. Gentlelady from Florida is recognized for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk, and I ask unanimous consent that it be considered as read, and I think the third time might be a charm.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment dispensed with. Gentlelady is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My amendment would restore the FDA's Real Cost Campaign, a highly effective public education effort focused on ensuring our youth know about the harmful health effects and risks of vaping and smoking. A key priority across my career has been prevention, whether it's talking about cancer and chronic diseases or drowning prevention and tobacco. When it comes to tobacco, education saves lives, and this FDA campaign has done an amazing job at saving kids' lives. The Real Cost Campaign is the nation's first federally funded youth tobacco prevention effort, and during President Trump's first term, it started to focus on e-cigarettes, just as youth use of it began to skyrocket. And research shows it helped to reduce youth use to its lowest level in a decade, preventing an estimated 444,252 American youth from starting to use e-cigarettes between 2023 and 2024. It contributed to the nearly 70% decline in e-cigarette use among youth that has occurred since 2019. So I was concerned deeply that this campaign was canceled and its funding canceled in this bill. Tobacco use is responsible for about $240 billion in U.S. healthcare costs annually. A 2019 study during Trump's first term showed this campaign kept about 587,000 youth from starting to smoke over a 3-year period, half of whom may have become regular adult cigarette users. So I urge and have a feeling that we might be restoring this because a little birdie whispered in my ear before I began talking on this amendment. But tobacco use continues to take a massive toll on our nation's health. It kills nearly 500,000 Americans each year, and 16 million more Americans currently live with costly tobacco-related diseases like cancer, heart disease, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. That's why I'm authoring this amendment, to ensure this campaign continues to generate cost-saving, effective public health and preventive strategies to save our children's lives. Given the substantial health and economic harms caused by tobacco, it is critical for the FDA to continue the Real Cost campaign to help free future generations from tobacco's devastating impact. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Maryland, Dr. Harris, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the gentlelady from Florida for offering the amendment. Look, we're not sure what we're doing right, but youth tobacco use is going down, nicotine and tobacco use. So let's not, until we figure out what's working and what's not, don't throw this out, because this could be working. It's a relatively cheap date. Compared to the size of our federal budget. And if it prevents just a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen young men and women from engaging in tobacco use, is probably worthwhile. So I wholeheartedly support the amendment.
There we go.
Mr. Bishop?
Do any other members wish to?
Said he'd take yes for an answer.
Okay. Do any other members wish to address the amendment? Seeing none?
I thank the chairman.
Oh.
We have worked together on tobacco, fighting youth tobacco for many years, and I appreciate his support. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. Question now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Florida. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, all say no. There are no noes. The amendment is agreed to. Gentlelady from Louisiana, Ms. Letlow, is recognized for the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk. I ask that it be considered read.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment dispensed with. The gentlelady is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Building on what you already included in the committee report, I rise today to offer an amendment to the report language, which is about protecting the most vulnerable among us, preterm infants, by ensuring the stability of their nutritional supply. We're asking the FDA to take a close look at the supply chain for preterm formula and other essential nutrition products. With reports of potential major disruptions due to a surge in litigation, we need to act now to prevent another crisis. Medical decisions and decades of research shouldn't be decided in a courtroom. The proposed report language directs FDA to review what authorities they currently have to maintain a stable supply and to use them if necessary. We're also asking the FDA to follow up on the consensus statement they issued last fall with the CDC and NIH, and to keep us informed as they continue reviewing the science. This is a timely issue, and we need a timely response from FDA so we can work together to make sure our healthcare professionals have the tools they need. Thank you for all your work on this matter. I appreciate the debate on this issue. I urge my colleagues to support our infants and adopt this amendment. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. Gentlelady from Connecticut. Well, that's what I thought. Did you? Okay. I thank gentlelady. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you very much, and I thank the gentlelady for offering the amendment from Louisiana. The bottom line, I remember from when I worked in the neonatal intensive care unit, the bottom line is preterm infants are very different. They require very different formulas because their gastrointestinal systems just aren't the same. And if they can't get it, they will not thrive. The bottom line is because of litigation, to be honest, against manufacturers, there is a threat to the availability of supply of preterm infant formulas in the United States. This simple report language just directs the FDA to see if they can figure out how to preserve the availability, so I support the amendment.
I thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Connecticut, Ms. DeLauro, is recognized to address the amendment.
Mr. Chairman and my colleagues, I rise in opposition of this amendment, which is based on an egregious misunderstanding of the issue at hand. Abbott, which makes Similac, and Reckitt Benckiser, which makes Infamil, are facing nearly 740 different lawsuits alleging they failed to warn parents about the risks of their bovine milk, that's cow's milk, based fortifiers. The concern here is how their fortifiers relate to necrotizing enterocolitis, a serious gastrointestinal condition primarily affecting premature infants that has an estimated fatality rate of over 20%. One child a day dies of this devastating disease. Instead of looking at an actual solution, Abbott is behind this amendment. They continue to push a two choices that hurts families either way. You give them a broad liability, a shield that protects them from any accountability, or they pull out of the market entirely, leaving families who need this formula with little recourse to be able to get it. Vulnerable infants need this formula, and there are limited alternatives. This amendment is a step for them towards their ultimate goal, and that is a liability shield. I've been in touch with Abbott. I informed them I was eager to find a solution, and that we could find a way in which they could stay in the market and yet not put infants at grave risk. ProPublica recently put out a piece citing that Abbott Laboratories is still engaging 740 lawsuits, and many of them, and I'll get to this in a second, many of them that they failed to warn parents, but the unsanitary conditions that continue to exist at their facilities. It was that unsanitary practices that's similar to those that led it to temporarily shut down a facility in Sturgis, Michigan, just 3 years ago. And you will remember that it sparked a nationwide formula shortage, and it killed 2 infants. And Abbott, my friends, which was proved, knowingly sold a contaminated product, infant formula that was contaminated, which resulted in the death of these 2 infants. The Sturgis, Michigan plant, at the center of the 22 storage facility, produces both standard infant formula and specialty and metabolic formulas, including preterm infant formula. At the time of the shortage, they controlled 40% of the market, and now have gotten that 40% back. You also should know that Abbott's sales totaled, the net income is $134 billion. It's an increase of 134% from 2023. They have the money. What we need to do is to work with them, to have the will to solve this problem so that youngsters, babies, infants are not at risk. I know Abbott is in shopping for blanket liability. This report is just another dangerous move. I'm on the side of vulnerable babies, and let me just end with this. We cannot put infants at risk. I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment, and I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. Gentlelady from Iowa, Ms. Hinton, is recognized to address the amendment.
I rise in support of this amendment, which really is designed to protect our youngest constituents, preterm babies. This amendment simply adds to the report requesting additional information from the FDA in terms of what authorities they have, what additional regulatory pathways and authorities might be available to them, and what they might need from us to make things better for these babies. It's been a rocky year or a rocky couple of years for baby formula. I'm remembering what we went through here in this body in the past couple of years, making sure we were addressing these challenges properly with the FDA. We know that the FDA has published a strategic plan on infant formula. We need a strategic plan on preterm infant formula products as well. We know in this country there are over 400,000 preterm babies born into the U.S. each year. I think it's just irresponsible for us to put preterm formula market at jeopardy for our most vulnerable babies in this country. So I think this is a very common sense amendment. It'll help protect the supply of preterm formula to create certainty for moms and ensure more healthy babies. And I'd like to yield the remaining time to our chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank the gentlelady for yielding. Look, yes, babies die of necrotizing enterocolitis. They do, because it's one of the complications of preterm delivery, a clear complication. So what you've got is a situation where you have a high incidence of disease. These same babies require special formula, and clever trial attorneys have connected the two in front of a jury that was sympathetic. The FDA has already determined there is no risk of, no enhanced risk. Every preterm baby has the risk. There's no enhanced risk of necrotizing enterocolitis with this formula. They've already determined that. We do not grant liability in this. We made the decision not to do what Abbott asked, which was to grant liability. If they want to go to judiciary, they, God bless them. All we're doing is asking the FDA, take a look at this and see if there's a way they can help with maintaining the supply. And that's what this is about. I thank the gentlelady for yielding.
So this is not about the trial bar. This is about babies. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you very much. I agree with the chairman, I think.
Mike, please.
I agree with the chairman to the extent that the Judiciary Committee ought to be looking at this. This is obviously a complicated issue. It obviously is an issue. And with that, I will yield the balance of my time to the ranking member.
I thank the gentleman. Yes, this is about saving babies. This is what I am on the side of our most vulnerable babies, preterm infants. We owe it to them to get to the bottom of what is going on. I understand this is just focusing on preterm infant formula, but you cannot divorce Abbott's actions here from the actions that led to the previous contamination that sparked the nationwide formula shortage. It is the same company and many of the same facilities that were involved. And they sold a contaminated product, and yes, the FDA slow-walked it. There was a whistleblower who told them that what was going on at the plant, the FDA, which I came down on hard on, as well as on Abbott, in order to be able to make sure that we were selling a product that was not going to put our babies at risk. I led a letter in October requesting the FDA to take further action beyond its consensus statement to ensure that parents and medical teams are adequately informed of the potential risks that some preterm infant formulas could pose for premature infants, as well as the benefits of donor human milk and the likely benefits of human milk-derived human milk fortifier for vulnerable babies in hospitals. American parents deserve the most up-to-date. I talked with Abbott. I said, let's come up with a solution. We can figure this out. They refused to do that because, and what they've done is they've shopped this amendment around because where they're going on this is looking for a shield for liability, so that they can continue to do what they do and be exonerated from the lawsuits that are out there. It's not about the trial bar. It is about saving babies. I've been working on this issue for the last several years to make sure and have legislation that would help us to have a domestic industry, promote a domestic industry, and not have one company have so much of the market that once they have a problem, they take it from the market, and who suffers? Parents and babies. Please understand of what is going on here, and I ask you, please, to oppose this piece of legislation. It is wrong-headed. It's the wrong direction. We can work out a solution. The company needs to have the will to do it, and we need to work with them to get that solution. And we can do that so that they can stay in the market, they can reap the benefits and their profits, and we can save infants in this country.
Thank the gentleman and gentlelady. Gentlelady from Pennsylvania, Ms. Dean, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, ranking members and chair. I want to just take a look at the actual language of the amendment. I think everybody in this room wants to protect preterm infants. I am certain that is what we have and we share in common. But let's be really honest about the language of this amendment. Let's not gloss over what it actually says. The committee encourages, this is the language of the amendment, number one, unless I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman. The committee encourages the agency's review to include, but not be limited to, current FDA authorities to offer limited, both in time and scope, protections for manufacturers of these preterm formulas. Why would we do that? Why would this committee put that language into this bill. I have no idea why we would offer that kind of limited shield liability to manufacturers. We are talking about the most vulnerable among us, preterm infants. Come on, folks. Let's withdraw this amendment, please. I ask the representative, withdraw the amendment. There is no reason to protect manufacturers of formulas and not protect preterm infants. I yield.
The gentlelady from Washington, Ms. Perez, is recognized to address the amendment.
So my son is going to be 4 this summer. This was very real and relevant to me as a new mother. And, you know, I've spent some time reading about this. I think some of the underlying issues here, this is a duopolistic market. There are regulatory moats to having more competition. The genetic, they sequenced the known cases of, some of the known cases of children who are sickened. And they did not match the 5 different types of cryobacteria or whatever that was found at this Sturgis facility. They found 5 different kinds of it, which should alarm us all. But that was not the relationship in the cases that were brought. One of the things I thought was most interesting reading about this, or disturbing, was that one of the reasons the whistleblowers felt that people weren't coming forward was because it was the only employer in town. If you wanted to keep paying your mortgage, you weren't gonna raise a stink, or weren't likely to raise a stink about this. And so I think understanding and addressing the regulatory moat that has led to the monopolization of this market, to advancing competition, and above all, to consider what are the economic realities of being a new mom in this country that lend themselves to making a choice between pumping breast milk in a broom closet and calling it a win, or being dependent on an unreliable stream or market of formula. We are offering people bad choices, inferior choices. I urge us to address more of the underlying root causes of this, and that's my offer to this committee on this.
Do any other members wish to address the amendment? Gentlelady from Ohio, Ms. Capter, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Gentlelady will hold. Oh, sorry. Next in order would actually be the gentlelady from Oklahoma, and then we'll come back to the gentlelady from Ohio. Gentlelady from Oklahoma is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to respond to a comment that the gentlelady from Pennsylvania mentioned. She read part of the language here in the amendment talking about protections for manufacturers. What she did not read, which I think is incredibly important here that no one seems to be talking about, is the first 3 words. And to report. We are not changing anything here. We are asking for information. We are asking for a review of the procedures of the FDA. We're asking for what the current actions, potential actions could be to stabilize the market. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a report. It is mind-boggling to me that we are having this kind of robust debate. Yes, there are issues in the formulary market, the marketplace for infant formula. We know that. We dealt with it 2 years ago. So to ask for a report to give us additional information, that's what this body does. So I encourage my colleagues to allow for a simple report from the FDA to allow us to make decisions moving forward that will, in fact, protect the most vulnerable, our preemie infants. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and with that, I yield.
Thank you, gentlelady. Gentlelady from Ohio, Ms. Capter, is recognized to address the amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I rise with more questions than answers on this one. I don't have a lot of respect for some of our big pharmaceutical companies and what they're rigging in our marketplace on prices and so forth. So this is being brought up in the depths of night, practically. And I would like to yield my remaining time to the ranking member to perhaps provide more clarity.
Thank the gentlelady for the time. I think it's interesting to note that we're going to read the first three words in the appropriations bill, but my colleagues understand that Abbott had introduced legislation in the Energy and Commerce Committee authorizing legislation so that in fact they would, and the legislation speaks to dismissing current and pending lawsuits. They couldn't get to first base, or they're there in an authorizing way, and I've had conversations with our colleagues, and colleagues who are, quite frankly, from Michigan, and who are as concerned as those folks of the whistleblower that my colleague Perez spoke about, are afraid to deal with because of what it means to them personally. This is a company on the march for getting liability, a shield for liability, current pending lawsuits, to continue to manufacture in the way that they have without, and there are now reports that the same kinds of contamination that were present earlier when they had to shut down that Sturgis plant they're looking at the same kinds of difficulties. I would say to my colleague, Congresswoman Perez, I have introduced legislation. It's called the Infant Formula Make It in America Act. I have been trying to promote a domestic industry for infant formula so that we do not have to rely on an Abbott or others who have the bulk of the market. And understand with Abbott, they have most all of the WIC contracts in all of our states. I've been working with the Federal Trade Commission to go after what they're doing there, how we're doing, and how we can break that monopoly. Because that monopoly is putting our families and our babies in grave harm. I ask your help, everyone here. That's what this place is all about, for us to be protectors of families, and particularly of infants. Mr. Chairman, I yield back, and I thank my colleague.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Washington, Mr. Newhouse, is recognized to address the amendment. Evidently, you were waving at somebody up here, and I mistook that. So I withdraw the recognition.
Good to have you with us.
Gentlelady Miss Lee is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a few questions. First of all, this seems that this is authorizing language, not language in appropriations bill. But to Ms. Bice's comments, if we're really concerned about just a report, why does this amendment not end with the first sentence, which is, and to report back to the Committee on Agency Authorities and potential actions to ensure the stability of the market for the most vulnerable population, end of story. But when the amendment continues to go further to say that the committee encourages the review to include, but not limited to et cetera, to offer limited protections, that's where the problem begins. So I asked the gentlewoman from Louisiana if she would possibly consider to change this amendment and just leave it the first sentence. And I yield.
Are there other members who wish to address the amendment?
Why don't you offer that friendly amendment?
With that, if there are.
First secondary amendment to just do the first sentence of this amendment.
We would have to have the text of it.
Strike all.
Well, can we postpone it to get the text?
It's up to the gentlelady. It's her
I mean,
amendment.
we're going to be here for a little bit.
Strike.
The gentlelady has not agreed. That's correct. The gentlelady, are there other members that wish to address the amendment? Gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Escobar, is recognized to address the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, if the author of the amendment would agree to Ms. Lee's recommendation, this would be unanimous. So if this is just about a report, we are all in.
The gentlelady does not agree.
Okay, so then this is not about just a report.
All right. Are there other members who wish to address the amendment? No. Seeing none, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Mr. Chairman, I ask that all of my colleagues support this amendment. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The question is now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Louisiana. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. No. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment. Roll call has been requested. Sufficient number of hands having been raised, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, aye. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar, no. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, aye. Mr. Amadei. Mr. Amadei, aye. Mrs. Bice. Mrs. Bice, aye. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop, no. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, aye. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter.
Mr. Carter?
Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, aye. Mr. Case. Mr. Case, no. Mr. Siscomani. Mr. Siscomani, aye. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, aye. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Clyburn.
Aye.
Mr. Clyburn, aye. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, aye. Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, aye. Mr. Cuellar. Mr. Cuellar, no. Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean, no. Ms. DeLauro.
Please, God, no.
Ms. DeLauro, no. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, aye. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, aye. Mr. Elzey. Mr. Elzey, aye. Ms. Escobar. Mr. Escobar, no. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Espaillat, no. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, aye. Ms. Frankel. Ms. Frankel, no. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, aye. Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, aye. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest, aye. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder, aye. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, aye. Mrs. Hinson. Mrs. Hinson, aye. Mr. Hoyer.
No.
Mr. Hoyer, no. Mr. Ivy. Mr. Ivy, no. Mr. Joyce. Mr. Joyce, aye. Ms. Capter.
No.
Ms. Capter, no. Mr. Loloda. Mr. Loloda, aye. Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee, no. Ms. Letlow. Ms. Letlow, aye. Mr. Levin. Mr. Levin, no. Ms. Malloy. Ms. Malloy, aye. Ms. McCullum. Ms. McCullum, no. Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, no. Mr. Molinar. Mr. Molinar, aye. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, aye. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, no. Mr. Mervan. Mr. Mervan, no. Mr. Newhouse. Mr. Newhouse, aye. Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez. Ms. Pingree.
I'm good now.
Yes.
Ms. Pingree, aye.
No. So no.
Ms. Pingree, no. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan, no. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Quigley, no. Mr. Reschenthaler. Mr. Reschenthaler, aye. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, aye. Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, aye. Mr. Strong. Mr. Strong, aye. Mrs. Torres. Mrs. Torres, no. Ms. Underwood.
No.
Ms. Underwood, no. Mr. Valadeo. Mr. Valadeo, aye. Ms. Wasserman Schultz. Ms. Wasserman Schultz, no. Mrs. Watson Coleman. Mrs. Watson Coleman, no. Mr. Womack. Mr. Womack, aye. Mr. Zinke. Mr. Zinke, aye.
Are there any members who wish to record their vote or change their vote? Gentleman from South Carolina. No.
Mr. Clyburn?
Gentleman's recorded as no.
FYI, no, Mr. Clyburn. Ms. Perez, no.
Are there other members wishing to change or record their vote? Seeing none, the clerk will tally.
It's not a simple report. It encourages. The language encourages them. Give them a chance. First, that's not something we do in appropriations. Those are things that are debated in authorizing committees. Second, where you're putting your thumb on the scale. Oh, you're right. Use language like that. I think the question is partly the what could we do?
Oh, it's all walkout.
Yeah. What would happen? Wait, Rosa, you.
Report for lots of creative ways to influence an agency to do something.
Well,
Yes.
Veronica.
On this vote, the ayes are 34, the noes are 27. The amendment is adopted.
I don't even have the amendment in front of me.
The gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Wasserman Schultz, is recognized for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at desk, and I ask unanimous consent that it be considered as read.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the gentlelady is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment is pro-consumer safety. It would strike the rider in Section 773 that prohibits the FDA from finalizing their rule regarding tobacco product manufacturing requirements. This amendment allows the FDA to establish standardized manufacturing practices for products responsible for 490,000 deaths annually. So I have a hunch that the majority of may have seen the word tobacco on a proposed rule, noticed that it came up during the Biden administration, and by default, decided to kill it. For over a decade, I hope I'm wrong, and maybe this amendment will pass if I am. For over a decade, the FDA has worked to develop standards for tobacco products to protect public health, and this rule does many important things. The rule first prevents contamination of tobacco products with foreign substances like metal, glass, plastics, dirt, rocks, and mold. Even smokers should like that. All these substances have been found in tobacco products, and this seems like a pretty sensible idea from the FDA. Second, it ensures the actual nicotine concentrations in e-cigarettes don't vary from what's on the product label. Studies found that actual nicotine content in e-liquids diverged from the labeling by as much as 840%. Mislabeling of products should be a strong red flag. This can present serious health consequences. Third, it ensures that containers of nicotine containing e-liquids do not leak, as reports now show they do. Did you know that nicotine can be absorbed through the skin and is toxic? No one wants their Fruity Pebbles strawberry gum vape to drip toxins all over their hands. Finally, it helps identify and trace tobacco products that are contaminated, giving the FDA the ability to investigate origins for faulty products and require corrective action. All seems common sense to me. Tell me the truth, if you went out and bought a lawnmower that started leaking gas, or a frozen pizza filled with glass, or a mislabeled cancer drug, you probably would want accountability and a way to correct it. Well, guess what? FDA is trying to protect us when it comes to tobacco, just like it does with the food you eat or the drugs we take. The pills we take, which are healthy, are held to high manufacturing standards and a rigorous process just to come to market. But tobacco products, which we all know are deadly, can be marketed deceptively toward children and often come on the market without authorization or adherence to basic protections. If you are all into Make America Healthy Again, and gosh, I know I am, you can't always side with big tobacco instead of your constituents' safety. This rider is a corporate giveaway, and we have to hold big tobacco and their deadly products to proper standards with this rule developed after years of research, expertise, and public comment. I urge members' support of my amendment, and I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Maryland, Dr. Harris, is recognized to respond to the amendment.
Thank you very much. And look, I agree. Look, tobacco products are something that we had our druthers, wish nobody used them. Fact of the matter, people do. And American companies make these products, and Chinese companies make these products. Problem with this rule is it really is only going to affect American companies. And the Chinese are going to be able to import anything they want without any oversight. They're doing it now. They do it on the vaping products. So the FDA, I think, should consider leveling the playing before they increase the bar for American companies. why aren't we going after these Chinese companies that are importing illicit drugs? But our bill does address that elsewhere. And look, yes, maybe the FDA can walk and chew gum at the same time. I want them to focus on the illicit Chinese imported products, the vaping products that are literally being sold to children. You go into your gas stations, you go to the place where they're all over the place. This is where the FDA should be concentrating. What this does, it puts this rule on hold, sends a signal to the FDA that of key importance right now is the illicit Chinese imports. That's what it is. And that's what the FDA, that's where the FDA should be concentrating. So reluctantly, I do oppose the amendment.
Gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Womack, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in strong opposition to the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Florida. This amendment inadvertently seeks to give the FDA the authority to impose some very burdensome, expensive, and unnecessary regulations across all tobacco product categories without any thought to the stark differences between them. And I want to speak primarily about premium cigars. A premium cigar is not a cigarette. A premium cigar is not a nicotine patch. The FDA's own research division agrees. So the fact that they're attempting to regulate them like they're the same just doesn't make any sense. Premium cigars are handmade natural products primarily manufactured by small factories in Latin America. Regulating them like anything else would result in detrimental effects on small business, local economies, and jobs throughout Latin America and the U.S. U.S. importers and retailers depend on these small manufacturers, and without them, they'd lose access to supply, negatively impacting jobs right here at home. Furthermore, the FDA has not demonstrated that premium cigars present a public health risk warranting such a regulation, ignoring the fact that premium cigars are consumed occasionally by a small adult demographic and pose far less risk than cigarettes, nicotine patches, or flavored products. So a one-size-fits-all approach just simply is outside the bounds of reason. So I am encouraging my colleagues to vote down this amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Underwood, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of Ms. Wasserman-Schultz's amendment to strike this harmful rider. At a time when tobacco remains the leading cause of preventable death in the United States and over 2 million minors report tobacco use, we should be using every tool in our toolkit to save lives. But instead of holding big tobacco accountable, this rider gives them license to kill. This rider blocks the FDA from finalizing a common sense rule that would ensure tobacco products are not contaminated with foreign materials like glass, mold, dirt, and yes, even fingernails. If my Republican colleagues can't even bring themselves to oppose cigarettes laced with literal fingernails, their position is clear. They are here to protect the tobacco industry's profits, not the American people. This rider is not serious policy. Honestly, fingernails and mold. Stunts like this undermine trust in the FDA, inject politics into public health decisions, and threaten the very people we should be trying to protect. We need smart enforcement and independent science. This rider blocks that. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment and strike this harmful language from the bill. I yield back.
Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I knew Republicans would argue the rule will cost manufacturers too much, or would hurt small business, or is a barrier to new businesses, or imposes unreasonable burdens, or there's no proof on these claims. On cost, tobacco products generate over $100 billion annually, and they spend millions upon millions lobbying, so don't give me that cost too much line. On smaller new businesses, like premium cigars, there are clear exemptions and delays in this rule. Small tobacco product manufacturers would not have to comply for 6 years after publication. And remember, contaminated products are no less dangerous to the consumer because they were made by a small or a new business. On unreasonable burdens, this is just cherry picking because we regulate so many other products. And yes, Mr. Chairman, these companies can walk, the FDA can walk and chew gum at the same time. And on proof, the FDA has plenty of literature cited if you're willing to believe facts and science. I know I do. I know we on this side of the aisle do. I urge support of my amendment so we can make sure that we can keep these products safer and that which is completely impossible, but at least make sure that we can make it less likely that they're killing people.
Questions now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Florida. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Roll call has been requested. Sufficient number of hands have been raised. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, no. Mr. Amade. Mr. Amade, no. Mrs. Bice. Mrs. Bice, no. Mr. Bishop.
Bishop.
Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Case. Mr. Case, aye. Mr. Siscomani. Mr. Siscomani, no. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, no. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Cloud, no. Mr. Clyburn. Mr. Clyburn, aye. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, no. Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Cuellar. Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean, aye. Mr. Loro.
Yes.
Mr. Loro, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, no. Mr. Elzey. Ms. Escobar. Ms. Escobar, aye. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Espaillat, aye. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, no. Ms. Frankel. Ms. Frankel, aye. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, no. Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, no. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest, no. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder, aye. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, no. Mrs. Henson. Mrs. Henson, no. Mr. Hoyer.
Aye.
Mr. Hoyer, aye. Mr. Ivy. Mr. Ivy, aye. Mr. Joyce. Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Captor.
Aye.
Ms. Captor, aye. Mr. Loloda. Mr. Loloda, no. Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee, aye. Ms. Letlow. Ms. Letlow, no. Mr. Levin. Mr. Levin, aye. Ms. Malloy. Ms. Malloy, no. Ms. McCollum. Ms. McCollum, aye. Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, aye. Mr. Molinar. Mr. Molinar, no. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, no. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, aye. Mr. Mervan. Mr. Mervan, aye. Mr. Newhouse. Mr. Newhouse, no. Ms. Perez. Ms. Pingree. Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan, aye. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Reschenthaler. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, no. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Strong. Mr. Strong, no. Mrs. Torres. Mrs. Torres, aye. Ms. Underwood. Ms. Underwood, aye. Mr. Valadeo. Mr. Valadeo, no. Ms. Wasserman Schultz. Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Ms. Watson Coleman. Ms. Watson Coleman, aye. Mr. Womack. Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Zinke. Mr. Zinke, no.
Does any member wish to record or change their vote? Gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Mr. Reschenthaler, no.
Gentlelady from Pennsylvania. Gentlelady
Recorded as an aye.
is recorded as an aye. Gentlelady from Washington.
Ms. Perez, aye.
Are there any other members seeking to record their vote or change their vote? Seeing none, the clerk will tally. On this vote, the ayes are 26 and the noes are 34. The amendment is not adopted. Is there any? Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cuellar, is recognized for an amendment.
Can I ask that we dispense with the reading?
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with. Gentleman from Texas is recognized for remarks on his amendment.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, members. This is the same amendment that I'm asking that we put in every appropriation bill. This amendment requires that the Department of Agriculture to conduct performance and regulatory efficiency reviews, ensure prompt and competitive procurement and contracting, in other words, on budget and on time type of contracts, submit quarterly and oversight reports, and develop updated performance measures. Members, what we're asking is on this amendment is that this amendment has 4 parts, and I went over them yesterday, but basically this amendment will ensure that the Department of Agriculture is held to a high performance and contract management standard by requiring annual outcome-based program reviews consistent with the Government Performance and Results Modernization Act that we passed a little bit over 10 years ago. It calls for a comprehensive modernization review of outdated or duplicate rules and internal processes, an effort that will not only reduce red tape, but identify meaningful cost savings across different agencies. It also mandates timely reporting to Congress to make sure that we know what the agencies are doing, requires technological tools for oversight and milestone verification. This amendment strengthens accountability in government construction and procurement efforts. And as I said yesterday, name me one contract that somebody gets and it doesn't go over time, it doesn't go over budget. Every contract that I'm familiar with has gone over budget, whether it's a hospital, a VA hospital, whether it's a building, whether it's a river road along the border, they always go over time. And what we ought to do is to make sure that we put, and there is a law already that calls for penalties. That is, if the contract goes over time, they should be penalized to make sure that they perform their time or their contract on time. So members, I'm asking that y'all consider this, and again, like yesterday, to give the chairman and the ranking member a little bit of time, I will offer and withdraw. And Mr. Chairman, I think you and I have talked about this and hopefully talked to every cardinal. But I really, really think that we ought to be adding this type of provisions. We have sprinkled some of those provisions in the appropriation bill, but I think we need to have a very comprehensive oversight and performance because, after all, one of our main jobs is to provide oversight, and this will provide that oversight. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or Republican administration, I think we need to do this. So, Chairman Harris, you and I have talked, and certainly with our ranking member to make sure that we look at it, give your staff a little bit of time, and hopefully we can add it at the appropriate time. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will offer and withdraw my amendment. Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies.
As always, the gentleman is
And there's no record vote. Thank you very much.
As always, the gentleman is a wise man.
They rejected the amendment to strike.
Gentlelady from Maine, Ms. Pingree, is recognized for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment addresses the reinstatement of 2 truly wonderful programs that have been very beneficial in your district. The Local Food Purchase Assistance Program and the Local Food for Schools program. These do everything you want the USDA to support. So during the pandemic, and we saw a lot of empty shelves, one of the things that people did was they turned to local farmers, local farm stands for the food that they were looking for. It was good for the farmers, it was good for local supply. So this program was created to support that opportunity. And contracts were developed with farmers in all of our states with the food going to food pantries and school lunch programs. It was great for school lunch programs because it allowed them to get more fresh fruits and vegetables and to buy them locally. It meant the kids might even know the farmer down the road was supplying their apples or their carrots. And same with food pantries, which often struggle to have enough fresh and healthy foods. These contracts meant a lot to the farmers. In my state, the Good Shepherd Food Bank brought produce from about 100 Maine farmers. And in your state, similar things were going on, only on a larger scale. But in March, the USDA ended the program. That meant that overnight, these farmers who had contracts to sell their produce or to their yogurt or their meat to the local school were suddenly cut off. In my state, it meant farmers who had planted extra, who had stored extra, who had set more aside, who had extra animals available, whatever it was, were suddenly out without their contract. This was devastating to them and devastating to our schools. Our school lunch people came to me and said, we're not going to be able to replace that. In fact, our schools can't afford to put that much more fresh, healthy food on our menu without raising the budgets, and many of them couldn't possibly do that. So the consequences have been dire. Farmers have been extremely angry. In my state, we had the first motorcade of tractors that came to our state capitol in April. And they came to say, we've had it with the USDA, whether it was the other contracts we were talking about that got broke, programs that were no longer fulfilled, farmers who weren't going to be reimbursed, or this program. They're really mad about it. And it's a bipartisan kind of anger. I've heard my Republican colleagues who are hearing the same thing. In Pennsylvania, 190 farmers had contracts. Iowa, 300. Wisconsin, 300. Ohio, 164. These are all farmers who lost these contracts. Your local schools lost the fresh and healthy food. And we know why that is damaging. So I urge you to support this amendment, which would reinstate the program and which would allow us to put the fresh, healthy food back in our schools and give the farmers the work back again, and the USDA to do the kind of job we expect of them. And I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Maryland, Dr. Harris, is recognized to respond to the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I thank the gentlelady. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I thank the gentlelady from Maine. Look, there are good aspects to this program. It's a Buy American program. I'm hoping the gentlelady and other people are willing to extend Buy American to a lot of other places we spend taxpayer dollars. But that being said, I have to rise in opposition to the amendment. This amendment will result in over $1 billion in unoffset mandatory spending in fiscal year 2026 and in every subsequent year thereafter. It literally creates a $1 billion mandatory expense every year. Now, in addition to that spending concern, I want to remind my colleagues that the funding for these programs was not authorized by Congress. It never has been. It came from the Commodity Credit Corporation, which the Biden administration used like a slush fund. This is not what the Commodity Credit Corporation exists for. They used it for this, and now we want to give it eternal life, this program, in mandatory spending. Regardless of whether you support or oppose the goals of the program, it should first be authorized by Congress through the Farm Bill. In the setting of $2 trillion deficits into the future and our recent debt downgrade, we probably ought to insist that something that costs $1 billion a year ought to go through regular order. Finally, I'd note that USDA has existing funding through other programs, the child nutrition programs in Section 32, to purchase local commodities from producers for food banks, school meals, and other nutrition programs. So it actually is duplicative of other programs. I urge you to oppose the amendment.
Thank the gentleman. The gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Bishop, is recognized to respond to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in strong support of this amendment. I think virtually every member of this committee has heard from food banks and schools who are appalled at the sudden cancellation of these programs. In my own state of Georgia, our State Commission of Agriculture and our Department of Agriculture had one of these contracts and was working with our local farmers to give them the opportunity to sell foods to our local schools. The local farm-to-school program worked very well, and some 150 farmers were able to benefit. Georgia has the 5th largest school lunch program in the country. Our state superintendent, who is a Republican, lauded the program, and our state cafeteria workers were very, very, very excited that they could supplement their budgets by having the fresh fruits and vegetables that were locally grown. Our daycare was expecting to participate, but those contracts were canceled. This is really a very, very disappointing development to have these contracts canceled because they support our families, our children, and our farmers. And there's no need to have them fighting one another. So I hope that this committee will go back to the purpose of these programs, support the stakeholders of our Department of Agriculture, support the beneficiaries of this food program. It's a win-win for everybody. And I think it's penny wise, pound foolish to kill the program. And I think that we should pass this amendment and make sure that these foods locally grown are purchased from our local farmers and our producers. With that, I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Connecticut, ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Laura, is recognized to address the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in support of this amendment, which reinstates funding for 2 programs that help families, farmers, and children alike: the Local Food Purchase Assistance and the Local Food for Schools program. We are in the middle of a cost of living crisis today, directly hurting families and farmers. President not laser focused on the cost of living crisis, but he is actively making it worse. Programs were specifically created by the Congress to assist farmers and to feed hungry people. The Local Food for Schools Cooperative Agreement Program gave schools funding to buy from local farms and ranchers. The Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement supports food banks, pillars of our community efforts to combat hunger. They were also economic lifelines for farmers who have been struggling with disasters and insufficient federal support. Will Delacamera, a specialty crop farmer in my district, had a contract through the state for 600 food boxes a week for LFPA. That is worth over $184,000. For specialty crop farmers in our state, this reliable source of income was critical for their financial planning. The farmer gets paid for what they produce. Hungry people get healthy and nutritious food. Then over $1 billion for the Local Food for Schools and the Local Food Purchase Assistance was terminated by the USDA, meaning not only did President Trump and Elon Musk determine that feeding our children and stocking our food pantries was not a priority, they decided that local farmers who produced the food for these children were no longer a priority either. Connecticut will lose $4 million in funding from these programs, and I would point you to the document that Congresswoman Pingree put together, and this talks about the LFPA program and also the LFS program, and it tells you by state how much money your state is going to lose with these programs. I think you ought to take a look at it. We need to reinstate funding for these programs, or the result would be a bill that takes food from the mouths of hungry people and takes hard-earned money out of the wallets of farmers. Support the gentlelady's amendment. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. Gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. McCollum, is recognized to address the amendment.
Mr. Chair and to Chair Harris, if this was saying in the future, no money's going to be used on this program, that's your right, and, you know, I'll live with that. But my problem is this amendment, as we have in front of us, supports small family-owned farms, as has been pointed out. Last year, the state of Minnesota received $814 million for the Local Purchasing Assistance Program. This money purchased food from more than 800 farmers and suppliers in my state. One of those farmers is Dan Zimmerly. Him and his wife farm in Waldorf, Minnesota. They have 3-acre parcel. They farm herbs, lettuce, cabbage, and kohlrabi. Last year, because of intense flooding in Minnesota, the Zimmermans lost most of their crop. They were on the verge of losing their farm. They thought they were done for. But the local food purchase assistance program literally saved his small family farm. Dan was able to sell his produce grown in greenhouses to food shelves, social service programs, healthcare organizations, senior living centers, living facilities, preschools, manufactured home communities because of food insecurity. They received grants. Minnesota and a dozen more farmers also supplied food for purchase through hubs and cooperatives. Okay, so they're selling the food. This year, $4.7 million has already been legally, folks, that's what I was talking about earlier, legally obligated. They planned on this. It was legally obligated. So to the chairs and to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, you don't want to do the program anymore? That's your prerogative. I got that. I understand it. I can live with that. But these are legally obligated funds that these people said were coming to them, small farmers that have now had the rug pulled out from underneath them. And so with that, I'm going to be supporting the gentlewoman's amendment. You have the right to go into the future, but to claw back into the past is something that we usually avoid doing. So Chair Harris, in the future, you want to end the program, I won't be happy, but I understand that. But this is about clawing back legal funding.
Thank you, gentlelady. Before we go forward, I would just ask, the rumble underneath is getting a little loud. It's difficult for the speakers and difficult for them to be heard. So I would ask you, if you have a conversation, take it outside, or at least lower the tone so the speakers have a chance to make their point. With that, gentlelady from Illinois is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I strongly support Representative Pingree amendment. We must do everything in our power to restore this vital program. I represent Northern Illinois, a region with a rich agricultural history. Corn and soybean fields define our landscape. I love visiting local farmers markets, and I am literally obsessed with my CSA, where families come together to buy fresh produce grown just miles away. At the same time, families are struggling to access fresh, healthy, and affordable local food. In Illinois, nearly 13% of households struggle to put food on the table. The LFPA program was a huge success for the farmers, families, and communities I represent. This program supports small farmers, strengthens local economies, and feeds families in need. Everything that we should be championing. I've seen firsthand how this program has been a lifeline, not just in my district, but for farmers and families across the country. In California's Central Valley, it helped farmers grow fresh fruits and vegetables that feed local communities. And in Tucson, Arizona, it connected students and families in need with nutritious foods grown just miles from their homes. This is how we build a stronger, fairer food system right where people live. That's why we need this amendment, to fund programs that make a difference for farmers and families across the country. I will be voting yes. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Mervanda, is recognized to address the amendment.
I rise in support of the amendment to reinstate grants provided by the local food purchase assistant and local food for schools programs. When these grants were terminated in the swarm of the cancellations by the administration, I received panic calls and emails from the food advocates across my district. $14.5 million directed to Indiana was stripped away overnight. These funds would have been used to support farmers and provide nutritious produce for children in schools and child care facilities. I represent Lake County, Indiana, where several communities are considered food desert. Too many people are living in communities that require them to travel long distances to the store with limited options where to shop. This is particularly burdensome for those who do not have access to reliable transportation. This is why it is so important that the schools are able to provide balanced meal for students. Sometimes the food children receive at schools may be the most nutritious meal they get that day. Healthy children development is resilient on the access of nutritious foods. My constituents rely on these funds, and I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting this amendment and restore the USDA local food grants. With that, I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Ohio, Ms. Kapler, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and my colleagues. I rise in strong support of this Pingree amendment. I am so happy to have the word local in it. I'm overjoyed, and it's after midnight. And you don't very often see that, and this program was successful. Oh, my God, after all these years, we finally got something in local farmers' pockets, not just big integrators. It especially motivates me. In our region, I was just at one of our major food banks, and there are a lot of empty shelves. The need is growing, and there's less food coming in. We had a major Postal Service food drive recently, and we didn't collect as much as we did a year ago. Food is costing more, dollars are a little bit short, and food is even more important. So just this spring, a truck filled with fresh local produce grown by hardworking Ohio farmers was turned around. Why? Because USDA, they got notice, USDA froze the very programs that we're talking about here that were designed to purchase their food and get it to hungry people across Ohio. One of the apple growers, even in my home county, which is unheard of, that the state of Ohio would even find us, and a local apple grower finally got a contract, and it was canceled under this program. So the local food purchase assistance program has been a lifeline. Rather than canceling, USDA ought to look upon it as a model and increase the amount of food that goes to local farmers. I don't know how this always goes haywire, but with a stroke of a pen, commitments were wiped away. Contracts were canceled. Funds were frozen, and farmers who'd already put seed in the ground and were already purchasing packaging, cold storage, and transportation were left holding the empty bag. We're literally seeing money taken away from the very local producers that could be the families that spawn the next generation of farmers in our country. One food bank leader told me, we have 30% more families, Marcy, coming through our doors this year, but 40% less fresh food available. Friends, this is already becoming a crisis. It's not enough to say the market will take care of it. It won't. This program has worked. It's connected small and medium-sized local farmers to local communities in need. Why would we turn it off? This amendment is straightforward. It restores the programs. Let's not allow a single another truck to be turned around. Let's not rob another farmer of a fair wage for fair work done, and let's not allow more Americans to go short on food for their families when we have the means to act. I urge my colleagues to support the Pingree Amendment, and I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Carter, is recognized to address the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, I have a story that might be interesting to all of you about federal government interfering in the people's lives. And so I'd like to tell it if you can. I was a young lawyer, fresh out of law school, and I got a job at the legislature, and I was the lawyer for the Ag Committee. We got an order from the federal government about the manufacturing of sausage, and that they were setting certain rules about that. And so we were holding a hearing on a Thursday afternoon in the summertime. And then they came walking in with two guys from the federal penitentiary, or state penitentiary, with a guy in handcuffs, and they took him up, and he raised his right hand, and he got on the stand. And they said, "You got a story about sausage?" "Yes, sir, I do. Would you like to tell us about it?" "Sure. My brother and I made the best sausage in East Texas. Everybody knew that." And he said, one day this guy came in one day, and he came up and knocked on our door and said, "I got bad news for you. The federal government's come up with some regulations you've got to meet in order to make sausage." Right. He said, first, you gotta do away with that wooden chopping block, and you gotta get air conditioner, you gotta get a bigger cooler and several things. So we looked at it, we went to our banker, and the banker said, it's gonna cost you $25,000. This is in the 60s, okay? Cost you $25,000, but I'll loan you the money because you make the best sausage in East Texas, and I know you'll be able to pay it back. So we made all the changes. We shut down, we cleaned it all up, we made everything, and he said, we went back to making the best sausage in East Texas. He said, about 8 months later, that same fella came and knocked on our door again and said, the federal government has made some more regulations you have to meet, and I'm sorry to tell you, the previous things you didn't meet the regulations, so you're gonna have to do some more. You have to have a slanted cement floor down to a special power drain. You've got to have all stainless steel equipment everywhere in here. And he said, we went and talked to our banker and said, well, that's going to cost you $40,000 easy, but I'll loan you the money because you boys make the best sausage in East Texas, and so I know you'll pay me back. He said, about 9, 10 months later, that same fellow walked in the door and said, I got some more bad news. So I shot the son of a bitch. Now, that's a true story, okay? That is a true story. And he was in prison uniform. And what he did, he shot him with a shotgun as he ran across the driveway trying to get to his car. And they put him for not attempted murder, but he was in for 4 years penitentiary for shooting the guy. So that's how serious at least people in Texas take about changing the rules on them in the middle of the stream. And I thought you might enjoy this at 12:30 at night.
Well,
Judge?
I certainly will recognize the gentleman in just a second. All I'm saying is the next person better have a better story. Gentleman from Maryland's recognized.
Mr. Chairman, you ought to tell that story to the next person that cancels the contract that the farmer has.
Yes.
I'm just going to tell it to the next person that speaks longer than 3 minutes. So. Do any other members wish to address the amendment? If not, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Judge Carter, for filling us in with some local color about Texas. But you can see from the number of people who have had stories from their home states, this is a very critical program. It's been extremely successful. And counter to what the chair has said, it's not the same as the child nutrition program. It was a very specific new model that really gave the states the power to set up these relationships with the farmers. And as to the $1 billion, we get to decide how funding is spent, and this money in the CCC was cut off, as my friend from Minnesota said. This was funding that was already appropriated, and it was out there, and now it's been stopped. Now, just to put that into context, President Trump spent $28 billion of the CCC to pay off farmers for their tariff costs during the last administration. So that is much more of the definition of a slush fund. And I will just say I'm wholeheartedly in favor of buying local, buying American. There is nothing more buy American than this. And if that's what we really want to accomplish, we should not be cutting this program. I urge everyone to support it.
I thank the gentlelady. The question's now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Maine. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. No. Very close call. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Roll call has been requested. Sufficient number of hands having gone up. The clerk shall call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mr. Alford? Mr. Alford, no. Mr. Amade? Mr. Amade, no. Mrs. Bice? Mrs. Bice, no. Mr. Bishop? Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert? Mr. Calvert? Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter? Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Case? Mr. Case, aye. Mr. Siskamani? Mr. Klein? Mr. Klein, no. Mr. Cloud? Mr. Cloud, no. Mr. Clyburn? Mr. Clyburn, aye. Mr. Clyde? Mr. Clyde, no. Mr. Cole?
No.
Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Cuellar? Mr. Cuellar, aye. Ms. Dean? Ms. Dean, aye. Ms. DeLauro? Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart? Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Edwards? Mr. Edwards, no. Mr. Elzey? Mr. Elzey, no. Ms. Escobar? Ms. Escobar, aye. Mr. Espaillat? Mr. Espaillat, aye. Mr. Fleischman? Mr. Fleischman, no. Ms. Frankel? Ms. Frankel? Ms. Frankel, aye. Mr. Franklin? Mr. Franklin, no. Mr. Gonzalez? Mr. Gonzalez, no. Mr. Guest? Mr. Guest, no. Mr. Harder? Mr. Harder, aye. Dr. Harris? Dr. Harris, no. Mrs. Henson? Mrs. Henson, no. Mr. Hoyer? Mr. Hoyer, aye. Mr. Ivy? Mr. Ivy, aye. Mr. Joyce? Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Captor? Ms. Captor, aye. Mr. LaLota? Mr. LaLota, no. Ms. Lee? Ms. Lee, aye. Ms. Letlow? Ms. Letlow, no. Mr. Levin? Mr. Levin, aye. Ms. Malloy? Ms. Malloy, no. Ms. McCollum? Ms. McCollum, aye. Ms. Ming? Ms. Ming, aye. Mr. Molinar? Mr. Molinar, no. Mr. Moore? Mr. Morelli? Mr. Morelli, aye. Mr. Mervan? Mr. Mervan, aye. Mr. Newhouse? Mr. Newhouse, aye. Ms. Perez? Ms. Perez, aye. Ms. Pingree? Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Pocan? Mr. Pocan, aye. Mr. Quigley? Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Reschenthaler? Mr. Reschenthaler, no. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rutherford? Mr. Rutherford? Mr. Rutherford, no. Mr. Simpson? Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Strong? Mr. Strong, no. Mrs. Torres? Mrs. Torres, aye. Ms. Underwood? Ms. Underwood, aye. Mr. Valadeo? Mr. Valadeo, aye. Ms. Wasserman Schultz? Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mrs. Watson Coleman? Mrs. Watson Coleman, aye. Mr. Womack?
Mr. Womack?
Mr. Womack? Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Zinke? Mr. Zinke, no.
Any members care to record a vote or change their vote? Gentleman from West Virginia. Gentleman is not recorded.
Mr. Moore, no. Mr. Adderholt, no.
Okay. Are there any other members that are not recorded or wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the clerk will tally. On this vote, the ayes are 30, the noes are 32, and the amendment is not adopted. Before we move on, the chair would like to advise the committee of a number of decisions that have been made. Obviously, we're well behind schedule, and we've got a lot of work to do in the next literally 36 hours. So I've made a decision. I look at the various things in front of us. The most important thing that we have to make sure we get done is the defense bill. We're set to mark that up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. At the rate we are going, you will be here at 9 o'clock. But I would prefer for that debate that you be fresh and we be ready. That's the largest single piece of legislation that we deal with. So, and we're clearly, and I've already talked, or had Mr. Amade's been informed of this, we're not going to be able to get to any realistic way to get to Homeland Security in the time frame that we have. As you know, we lost a day. Obviously, we lost a former colleague, and Mr. Rangel, I know many members want to be able to go to that. We certainly want to facilitate that. So this is what I would propose that we do. I want to let Ms. Pingree finish out. She's on a hot streak. She's got 2 more amendments. And then we can call it a night. At that point, we will be back here at 9 o'clock in the morning to mark up the defense bill. Let me keep going here. So we will get that done tomorrow, no matter what. Once that's done, we'll come back to the ag bill. We can, and we will try and get that done. So I would like to be able to get both of those, but we're going to get the defense bill done no matter what. Also, I know a number of you have family and friends in for the presidential picnic. And I don't want to spoil that. It's a pretty special thing for families. So we'll take about a 2.5 hour recess around that. So those of you that want to go can go do it. We will work, I'll probably look for some advice from some of my friends as to flights they've got to get to New York, what the schedule is. We will try to work a reasonable period of time, but certainly make sure that people don't miss flights to a funeral. So if we could do that, if we could kind of and think through, please, again, you've got all the time you want. We're not changing the rules. You want to keep going as long as you've been going, then we'll keep going. But we're going to finish the defense bill for sure tomorrow. So think about that. It doesn't look like we'll have near the number of amendments. We've got certainly a substantial number. I will call on the gentlelady in just a moment. A substantial number. I would like, if we can get the ag bill done, that would be great. We would have 3 of them done. If not, we'll start up with this when we get back from the break that we have next week. And obviously, we'll move on to Homeland in that time. So expect some adjustments, obviously, in the markup schedule that you've been given. But we are going to continue to do our work. We are going to get done, barring divine or leadership intervention. And I put them in the appropriate order. So with that, if we could, I would first refer... We would do that. I will have to look at that. It would not be in this time frame. It will be when we come back. So again, we will get defense done for sure. We will try to get ag done. We will get those of you that want to go, and there's a considerable number, to the presidential picnic. And then I need some help in telling us, advising our committee, what flights are the flights that people are taking to get to New York in time so they can get there for that. Some of you may be going very early in the morning, but I understand that you all need to be there by 9:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So some of you may be going tomorrow night. So again, if you would visit with me or staff, or Democratic staff would be fine. I would suspect there's probably more Democrats than Republicans, but there'll be members from both parties that certainly want to make that funeral. So if that's okay, then that's how we will proceed. Any questions or comments? Okay. Thank you guys very much. And again, I'm not impressed with the speed of these debates. I am impressed with the civility of these debates and the effort of members to stay within their allotted timelines. I really do appreciate that. We just got a lot of people that seem to want to talk on every issue. I'm happy to listen to you all. I learn something every time one of you speaks, but, think about how much time you want to spend together, as much as I know you love one another. With that, if we could, I would call on my good friend, the gentlelady from Maine, for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for returning a small bit of sensibility to our schedule. I appreciate your accommodation there. And in that spirit, I have an amendment at the desk. The amendment number 3, since it is also a discussion of the important... I'm just going to say I'm going to withdraw completely amendment number 3 and go directly to number 4.
Oh, my God bless you. Okay.
Riding your coattails.
So going to our last amendment of the night, the gentlelady from Maine is recognized.
And I will make the last amendment of the night relatively brief, but I know it is a riveting topic to all of you. It is an amendment about the food waste liaison. Now, most of you don't.
Gentlelady's amendment is at the desk.
I ask the reading be dispensed with.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment dispensed with, and the gentlelady from Maine is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
Okay. Most of you don't spend a lot of time thinking about food waste, and every time I bring up food, it always reminds us of what's on our tables and what we're eating or not eating. But the truth is, we waste about 30% of the food in this country, and that's quite a travesty when you think about your grandmother who told you never to waste good food. It also means not only are we wasting that food, we're wasting the farmer's time, we're wasting the water that goes into it, we're wasting the transportation of moving our food around the country, and even worse, most of it ends up in a landfill, and once in a landfill, it turns into methane gas, and whether you believe in climate change or not, it's not good for the environment, and it's an expense to all of our communities. So several years ago, the USDA created a food waste liaison and have been doing some great work along with the EPA to help reduce our food waste. They do everything from thinking about ways to limit the liability of people who donate food, of making sure we put more food into composting or biodigesters, helping state and local governments to deal with sensible laws related to this. There are a whole host of things in the very complex world of what goes wrong in our food supply chain systems that we waste so much food. And it's a very valuable piece of work. Now, we've been able to get that position funded every year for $500,000, and this year it was arbitrarily cut for down to $250,000, which is just not adequate to do the task. So this is a simple amendment that restores the funding to an already modest amount to do this important work and continues the work that we've been doing. It's a very bipartisan issue. Mr. Newhouse is the co-chair of the Food Waste Caucus, where we discuss these riveting issues, and we work on things like food date labeling. Who amongst us has not had the problem when you went into the food pantry and you picked something up and you said, oh my gosh, it's expired. Should I throw it away? And then someone else in your family says, no, you got to throw it away. And you say, no, it's perfectly good to eat. And then it ends it up in a domestic dispute. And we call this bill the Domestic Harmony Bill to make sure that we restore those domestic fights that are going on in families. Anyway, we do great work. The USDA has done great work with the modest amount of money that it has, and this just puts back the $250,000. I encourage my colleagues in their last sleepy endeavor of the night to just gently say yes and go along with this amendment, and I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Maryland, Dr. Harris, is recognized to respond to the amendment.
I'm convinced I support the amendment.
I should have done this about 2 hours ago. My good friend, the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Bishop, you have any comments to make? There seems to be consensus that you have nothing left to say. So, do any other members wish to address the amendment? If not, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
I thank the chair for his good nature and good thinking on this one, and I appreciate everyone.
Okay, the question is now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Maine. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is accepted. With that, 9 o'clock, we will start on time, so please be here. Thank you. Steve.